Admiral Jack Harrison stood on the bridge of the UES horizon, staring at the impossible data on his screen. The signal was old, very old, but it was definitely human. It had been broadcasting from the Kepler 442 system for over 300 years, sending the same message over and over again. This is New Terra colony ship. We need help. Repeat, this is New Terra colony ship. We need help. Dr. Lisa Martinez walked up beside him, her face showing the same confusion that everyone felt. She was the best xenobiologist in the United Earth Federation, and she had seen many strange things in her career. But this was different. Admiral, according to our records, the New Terra left Earth in 2387. That was 350 years ago, she said quietly. The ship was never heard from again. Everyone assumed it was lost. Colonel Sam Wright, the military strategist for their mission, checked his data pad. Sir, the signal is coming from the fourth planet in the system. Long-range scans show it has an atmosphere that humans can breathe. There are also signs of civilization. Harrison felt his heart beat faster. A lost human colony that had survived for over 3 centuries? It seemed impossible. Space was dangerous, full of hostile aliens and deadly environments. Most early colony ships had failed within the first 50 years. How many people do you think could still be alive? Harrison asked. Martinez looked at her readings. If they started with the standard colony ship population of 50,000, and if they managed to establish a stable society, maybe a few million by now. But that's assuming they survived at all. Wright pointed to another screen. Sir, I'm picking up energy signatures from multiple locations on the planet. These aren't just small settlements. This looks like a real civilization. The bridge crew worked quietly around them. Everyone knew they were part of something historic. The Federation had been expanding into space for 400 years, and they had found many things. Alien ruins, hostile species, dead worlds. But they had never found a lost human colony that was still alive. Set course for the planet, Harrison ordered. But keep our weapons ready. We don't know what we're going to find down there. The Horizon was a large exploration ship with a crew of 800. It had been sent to investigate reports of unusual activity in the Kepler 442 system. The Federation had received strange reports from trading ships about seeing lights and energy signatures where there should only be empty space. As they got closer to the planet, the crew could see more details. The world was green and blue, with white clouds covering part of the surface. It looked like Earth, but there were differences. The continents were shaped differently, and there were large structures visible from space. Those are cities, Wright said, looking through the telescope. Big ones. And look at this, there are ships in orbit around the planet. Martinez studied the ships through her instruments. They're definitely human design, but they look different from anything in our records. The hulls are thicker, and the weapons systems are much larger than standard colony ships. Harrison felt a chill run down his back. Weapons systems? Why would a colony need such heavy weapons? Maybe they had to defend themselves, Wright suggested. This part of space isn't exactly safe. There are reports of hostile alien activity in nearby systems. The communication officer turned to face them. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the planet. It's in English, but the accent is strange. Put it through, Harrison ordered. A man's voice filled the bridge. It was strong and confident, but there was something hard about it. Unknown Earth ship, this is Captain Ryan Blake of New Terra Defense Force. State your business in our system. Harrison stepped forward. This is Admiral Jack Harrison of the United Earth Federation ship Horizon. We received your distress signal and came to offer assistance. There was a long pause. Then the voice came back, and it sounded surprised. Distress signal? Admiral, that beacon has been running automatically for over 200 years. We don't need assistance anymore. Captain Blake, are you really from the original New Terra colony ship? My great-great-grandfather was on that ship, yes. Admiral, you and your people are welcome to visit our world. But I should warn you, things have changed a lot since our ancestors left Earth. Harrison looked at his officers. Martinez seemed excited, but Wright looked worried. The military man had noticed something in the captain's voice. It was the tone of someone who had seen combat, someone who was used to fighting. "We would be honored to visit," Harrison replied. "We have many questions about how you survived out here." "I'm sure you do. Follow the beacon signal down to landing port 7. We'll have people waiting for you. And Admiral? Come armed. This isn't Earth, and it isn't safe." The communication ended, leaving the bridge in silence. Wright was the first to speak. "Sir, that didn't sound like a peaceful farming colony." Martinez disagreed. "They've been isolated for centuries. Of course they would be cautious. Think about what they must have gone through to survive this long." Harrison made his decision. "We'll take a shuttle down with a small team." "Right, pick 20 of your best soldiers. Martinez, bring whatever scientific equipment you think we'll need. I want to know everything about these people." As they prepared for the landing, Harrison couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to discover something that would change everything. The new Terra colonists had not just survived in this dangerous part of space. They had built cities, developed new technology, and created a military force strong enough to defend themselves. But from what were they defending themselves? The shuttle left the horizon 2 hours later. As they descended through the atmosphere, the crew could see the planet's surface more clearly. There were indeed large cities, but there were also scars on the land. Blast craters, burned areas, and what looked like the remains of massive battles. "This planet has seen war," Wright observed quietly. Martinez pointed to a structure near their landing site. "Look at that building. The architecture is human, but it's been designed like a fortress." Harrison stared out the window as they approached the landing port. Whatever had happened to the people of New Terra, it had changed them. The question was, had it changed them for better or worse? The landing port was heavily defended, with weapon emplacements and armed guards visible everywhere. As their shuttle touched down, Harrison could see a group of people waiting for them. They were definitely human, but there was something different about them. They stood straighter, moved with more confidence, and all of them carried weapons. Captain Ryan Blake stepped forward as the shuttle door opened. He was a tall man with gray eyes and scars on his hands and face. When he smiled, it was the smile of someone who had survived many battles. "Welcome to New Terra, Admiral Harrison. We have a lot to talk about." Captain Ryan Blake walked slowly around the Federation shuttle, his eyes taking in every detail. His people stood nearby, all of them armed and alert. Admiral Harrison noticed that even the civilians carried weapons. This was not the peaceful farming colony he had expected to find. "Your ship is impressive," Blake said. "Much more advanced than what our ancestors brought with them. Technology has come a long way back on Earth." Dr. Lisa Martinez stepped forward with her scanning equipment. "Captain, we're very interested in learning how your people survived out here. Our records show that most early colonies failed within the first generation." Blake smiled, but it was not a happy smile. "Most colonies didn't have to deal with what we faced. Come, let me show you what 300 years of survival looks like." They walked through the landing port, which was built like a military base. Thick walls, guard towers, and weapon systems pointed toward the sky. Colonel Wright examined the defenses with professional interest. These people had built their entire civilization like they were expecting an attack. "Captain, what exactly are you defending against?" Wright asked. "You'll understand soon enough," Blake replied. "First, let me introduce you to some of our people. This is Dr. Kate Johnson, our chief scientist." Dr. Johnson was a woman in her 50s, but she moved like someone much younger. Her grip was stronger than Martinez expected, and her eyes were sharp and alert. "Welcome to New Terra. I hope you're ready to learn some things that will surprise you. This is Commander Alex Turner," Blake continued. "He's in charge of our technology development." Turner was a younger man, probably in his 30s, but his hands were covered in scars and calluses. He wore simple clothes, but the tools on his belt looked both primitive and deadly effective. "Admiral, your people still use the old designs for everything. We had to get creative out here." As they walked through the city, Harrison and his team saw things that amazed them. The buildings were strong and practical, built to last. The people they met were healthy and confident, but they all had a hardness about them. Even the children seemed more serious than Earth children. "Your population seems very fit," Martinez observed. "Have you had problems with disease or malnutrition?" Dr. Johnson laughed. "Quite the opposite. We've had to become stronger to survive. Let me show you something that will interest you as a scientist." She led them to a medical facility that was more advanced than anything on the horizon. The equipment was different from Federation designs, but it was clearly effective. Johnson pulled up a holographic display showing human genetic information. "This is the genetic profile of an average New Terra citizen," she said. "Compare it to your Federation standard." Martinez stared at the display in shock. "This is impossible. The bone density is 40% higher than normal human levels. The muscle fiber efficiency is enhanced. The neural processing speed is increased. These aren't normal humans anymore. We prefer to think of ourselves as improved humans," Johnson said calmly. "When you're fighting for survival for 3 centuries, you learn to adapt or you die." Wright stepped closer to the display. "You're talking about genetic modification on a massive scale. The Federation banned those experiments after the bio-wars." Blake's expression became serious. "Colonel, the Federation had the luxury of banning dangerous experiments. We had the choice of changing or dying. We chose to live." Commander Turner led them to his workshop, where he showed them weapons and tools that looked like nothing the Federation had ever seen. They were built from materials that scanners couldn't identify, and they were clearly designed for combat. "Most of our technology comes from salvaged alien equipment," Turner explained. "We learned to take apart their weapons and build our own versions. It took us 50 years to figure out how their energy systems work." "Alien equipment?" Harrison asked. "What aliens?" Blake and Turner exchanged looks. "That's a longer conversation, Admiral. But the short answer is that we're not alone in this part of space, and our neighbors are not friendly." They were taken to a memorial wall with thousands of names carved into black stone. Each name had dates, and Martinez quickly realized these were death records. The earliest dates went back over 200 years, and there were new names that had been added recently. "Every person on this wall died defending our world," Blake said quietly. "My grandfather's name is there. My father's name is there. This war has been going on for generations." Wright studied the dates more carefully. "These casualties are spread out over centuries, but they never stop. You're fighting a long-term conflict." "We're fighting for our existence," Blake corrected. "The Zephyrian Collective doesn't believe organic life has the right to exist. They've been trying to eliminate us since our grandparents first landed on this world." Dr. Johnson pulled up another display, this one showing the local star system. Red markers indicated hostile territory, while green showed areas under human control. There was much more red than green. "The Zephyrians control most of this region of space," she explained. "They're silicon-based life forms with technology that's thousands of years more advanced than what our ancestors brought from Earth. By all logic, they should have wiped us out in the first year." "But you're still here," Martinez said. Blake smiled again, and this time there was pride in it. "We're still here because we learned something they didn't expect. Humans are very good at adapting. We're very good at surviving. And we're very good at fighting back." Turner showed them a weapon that looked like it had been built from crystalline materials. "This is a Zephyrian plasma rifle. It can cut through 3 feet of steel. We captured it during a raid 10 years ago and learned to build our own versions." "You raid their positions?" Wright asked. "We do more than that," Blake said. "We hunt them. Our ancestors were farmers and scientists and engineers. We became soldiers because we had to. But our children were born soldiers. And their children are something even more dangerous." As the day continued, the Federation team learned more about New Terra society. Every citizen received military training from childhood. Their schools taught combat tactics alongside mathematics and science. Their entertainment included competitions that looked more like war games than sports. But they were still recognizably human. They laughed and told stories and cared for their families. They had art and music and literature. They had simply become a version of humanity that was designed for war. "Admiral," Blake said as they finished the tour, "I need to ask you something important. Why are you really here? It's been over 3 centuries since Earth sent that colony ship. Why look for us now?" Harrison had been dreading this question. "To be honest, Captain, we weren't looking for you at all. We came here to investigate reports of unusual activity in this system. Finding you was a complete surprise." Blake's expression became hard. "What kind of unusual activity?" "Energy signatures that didn't match any known technology. Ships moving in patterns that suggested intelligence. We thought we might have found a new alien species." "You did find a new alien species," Blake said quietly. "You found us. 300 years of war changes people, Admiral. We're not the same humans that left Earth." Dr. Johnson stepped forward. "Admiral, with respect, your people need to understand something. The galaxy is not a safe place for humans. It's not a place for peaceful exploration and scientific discovery. It's a battlefield, and the only way to survive is to be stronger than everything else out there." Wright looked around at the armed civilians and fortified buildings. "You've built a warrior society." "We've built a surviving society," Blake corrected. "Everything else is just details." As the sun set over New Terra, Harrison realized that his mission had just become much more complicated. He had found a lost human colony, but they were no longer the people who had left Earth centuries ago. They had become something new, something adapted for a hostile galaxy. The question was, what would Earth think of these new humans? And what would these new humans think of Earth? The alarm started at dawn. A loud, piercing sound that made Admiral Harrison jump out of his bed in the guest quarters. Through his window, he could see New Terra citizens running in organized patterns toward defensive positions. These people moved like they had practiced this routine 1,000 times. Captain Blake appeared at his door within minutes, fully armed and wearing battle armor that looked both primitive and deadly effective. "Admiral, we're under attack. The Zephyrians have found your ship." Harrison grabbed his uniform and equipment. "How many ships are attacking?" 3 destroyers and about 20 smaller craft," Blake replied calmly. "It's a standard raiding force. We can handle it, but you need to see what we're up against." They ran through corridors filled with armed civilians heading to battle stations. Dr. Martinez and Colonel Wright met them at the command center, both looking confused and worried. The command center was built deep underground, with thick walls and multiple escape routes. "Sir, the Horizon is reporting enemy contact," Wright said. "Captain Morrison says they've never seen ships like these before." Blake pulled up a tactical display that showed the space around New Terra. The enemy ships were unlike anything in Federation records. They looked like they were grown rather than built, with smooth curves and a crystalline structure that seemed to shift and change as they moved. "Those are Zephyrian destroyers," Blake explained. "Each one is about the size of your ship, but their weapons are much more powerful. Their hulls are made from living crystal that can repair itself during battle." General Mike Roberts entered the command center. He was an older man with gray hair and scars covering half his face. When he spoke, his voice carried the authority of someone who had been fighting wars for decades. "Captain, we have 12 fighter squadrons ready for launch. Ground batteries are charged and targeting the largest enemy ship. Do we have permission to engage?" Blake looked at Harrison. "Admiral, this is what we deal with every few months. The Zephyrians send raiding forces to test our defenses and try to capture prisoners for their experiments. We can either fight them off, or we can try to run away. But they're faster than any human ship ever built." Harrison watched the tactical display as the alien ships moved closer to his vessel. The Horizon was a powerful ship, but it was designed for exploration, not war. Against these crystalline destroyers, it wouldn't last 5 minutes. "What do you recommend, Captain?" "We fight," Blake said simply. "Dr. Martinez, Colonel Wright, you might want to watch this. You need to understand what humans can become when they have to." General Roberts activated the planet's defense systems. Massive energy weapons rose from hidden positions all over the surface. These weren't the standard laser arrays that Federation worlds used for defense. These were weapons built from alien technology, designed to destroy ships that were far more advanced than anything Earth had ever produced. The first barrage hit the lead Zephyrian destroyer before it could react. The alien ship's crystalline hull began to crack and burn, but it didn't die immediately. Instead, it started to repair itself while returning fire with beams of energy that carved deep craters in the planet's surface. "Launching fighters," Roberts announced. Harrison watched in amazement as dozens of small craft rose from concealed hangars around the planet. These fighters looked nothing like Federation designs. They were built for speed and maneuverability, with weapons that seemed too large for their small frames. Dr. Martinez stared at her instruments. "The energy readings from those fighters are impossible. How are they generating that much power?" Dr. Kate Johnson appeared beside her. "We learned to use Zephyrian power cores. Each fighter has the energy output of a Federation destroyer. When you're outnumbered 1,000 to 1, you need every advantage you can get." The battle in space was unlike anything the Federation team had ever seen. The new Terra fighters moved in patterns that seemed to anticipate enemy actions. They worked together like a single organism, covering each other and striking at enemy weak points with precision that spoke of centuries of practice. But the aliens were not easy opponents. Their ships moved in ways that defied physics, turning and accelerating without regard for inertia. Their weapons could punch through any known armor, and their crystalline hulls could absorb incredible amounts of damage. "How do you fight something like that?" Wright asked, watching an alien ship survive a direct hit that should have vaporized it. Commander Alex Turner was working at a control station nearby. "You learn their weaknesses. Zephyrian crystal technology is very advanced, but it has limits. Hit them in the right spots with the right frequency energy, and they shatter like glass." As he spoke, a new Terra fighter managed to get behind one of the alien destroyers. Its weapons fired not the standard energy beams that Federation ships used, but a strange pulsing light that seemed to vibrate at multiple frequencies at once. The alien ship's hull began to crack along invisible lines, and within seconds, the entire vessel broke apart like a puzzle coming undone. "Resonance weapons," Turner explained. "It took us 80 years to figure out how to build them. Every material has a frequency that will destroy it. We just had to learn the frequency for living crystal." The battle continued for 2 hours. The aliens fought with the cold efficiency of machines, never retreating even when their ships were destroyed. But the humans fought with something more dangerous: creativity and desperation combined with centuries of experience. General Roberts coordinated the defense with the calm precision of someone who had done this many times before. He moved fighters and defense platforms like pieces on a chessboard, always staying one step ahead of enemy tactics. "Target the command ship with Artillery Battery 7, he ordered. "Fighter Squadrons 3 and 5, provide cover for the ground strike." Harrison realized he was watching something incredible. These people were not just defending themselves. They were winning against technology that was far superior to their own. They were doing it through tactics, teamwork, and weapons that they had built from captured alien equipment. But what impressed him most was their attitude. There was no panic, no fear. The civilians continued their daily work while battles raged overhead. Children played in schoolyards protected by energy shields. This was normal life for these people. "Admiral," Blake said quietly, "your ship is in trouble." On the tactical display, the Horizon was taking heavy damage from 2 alien fighters that had broken through the defensive perimeter. The Federation ship's weapons were having no effect on the crystalline hulls, and its shields were failing under the alien energy beams. "We have to help them," Harrison said. "We are helping them," Roberts replied. "Squadron 12 is moving to intercept." 6 new Terra fighters swooped down on the alien craft attacking the Horizon. The aliens immediately turned to face this new threat, apparently recognizing these fighters as much more dangerous than the Federation ship. The fight was brief and brutal. The aliens destroyed 2 of the human fighters, but the remaining 4 managed to get behind them and fire their resonance weapons. Both alien craft broke apart in showers of crystalline fragments. "That's the last of them," Roberts announced. "All enemy craft destroyed. Total casualties, 4 fighters, 11 pilots. Acceptable losses. Acceptable losses." Harrison felt a chill at those words. These people had just lost 11 human beings, and their general called it acceptable. But as he looked around the command center, he realized that this was how they had survived for 3 centuries. They had learned to accept casualties as the price of continued existence. Blake turned to the Federation team. "Now you understand what we face out here. The Zephyrians don't want our resources. They don't want to conquer us. They want to eliminate us completely because they believe organic life is a disease that must be cured." Dr. Martinez was studying the wreckage of the alien ships on her instruments. "Their technology is incredible. How do you possibly fight something like this on a regular basis?" "We fight because we have to," Blake replied. "We fight because the alternative is extinction. And we fight because we've learned something important about humans that the Zephyrians don't understand." "What's that?" Wright asked. Blake smiled grimly. "We learn. We adapt. And we never give up. Give a human a problem that should kill him, and he'll find a way to kill it instead." After the battle, engineer Danny Clark took Admiral Harrison and his team deep into the underground workshops of New Terra. The tunnels went down for hundreds of feet, carved into solid rock and reinforced with materials that scanners couldn't identify. The air smelled of metal and electricity, and the sound of machinery echoed through the corridors. "Most people think we survived because we were lucky," Clark said as they walked. "But luck only gets you so far. We survived because we learned to use everything our enemies left behind." Clark was a man in his 40s with hands that were permanently stained with grease and chemicals. His arms were covered in small scars from working with dangerous alien technology. When he spoke, it was with the quiet confidence of someone who had spent his life solving impossible problems. "This is our main workshop," he said, opening a massive door. "Everything you see here was built from Zephyrian materials." The workshop was enormous, filled with machinery that looked like it belonged in a science fiction movie. Crystalline structures grew from metal frameworks, and energy flowed through tubes that seemed to be made of liquid light. Workers moved between the machines with practiced ease, building weapons and tools that defied Federation understanding. Dr. Martinez examined a half-finished fighter craft that was being assembled nearby. "How do you possibly understand their technology well enough to use it?" "Trial and error," Clark replied. "Mostly error. We lost a lot of good people in the early years, trying to figure out how their machines worked. But every failure taught us something new." He led them to a display case containing what looked like a piece of living crystal. It pulsed with internal light and seemed to shift shape as they watched. "This is a Zephyrian power core. It generates more energy than a Federation fusion reactor, but it's the size of your fist." Colonel Wright studied the crystal carefully. "How does it work?" "We're not entirely sure," Clark admitted. "But we know how to make it work for us. The crystal responds to specific thought patterns. The Zephyrians use direct neural interfaces to control their technology. We had to learn to think like them." They were interrupted by the arrival of Dr. Amy White, New Terra's chief biologist. She was a woman in her 30s with silver-streaked hair and eyes that seemed to see more than they should. When she shook hands with Dr. Martinez, her grip was strong enough to be uncomfortable. "Dr. Martinez, I understand you're interested in our genetic modifications," White said. "Would you like to see how we accomplish them?" They followed her to a medical facility that was more advanced than anything on Earth. The equipment was a mixture of human engineering and alien technology, creating machines that could analyze and modify living tissue with incredible precision. "Our modifications began with Dr. Paul Green about 150 years ago," White explained. He was a brilliant scientist who realized that normal humans couldn't survive long-term warfare against the Zephyrians. "We needed to become stronger, faster, and smarter." She pulled up a holographic display showing the progression of genetic changes over the generations. Each modification was small and carefully tested. Increased bone density to survive impacts that would kill normal humans. Enhanced muscle fibers for greater strength and endurance. Improved neural pathways for faster reaction times. Martinez stared at the data in amazement. The changes are subtle but comprehensive. You've essentially created a new subspecies of humanity. That was the idea, White agreed. But the most important changes aren't physical. We've enhanced cognitive processing, pattern recognition, and tactical thinking. A new Terra citizen can process battlefield information and make decisions faster than any normal human. Wright examined the genetic profiles more closely. What about the psychological effects? Modifications this extensive must have mental consequences. White's expression became serious. There are trade-offs. Our people are more aggressive than baseline humans. We have stronger pack loyalty and a greater willingness to use violence. But these aren't bugs in the system, they're features. They help us survive. They were joined by Linda Davis, New Terra's chief historian. She was an elderly woman who moved with the careful precision of someone who had lived through many battles. Her eyes held the weight of centuries of accumulated knowledge. Dr. White can tell you about the science, Davis said. But I can tell you about the cost. Every generation has paid in blood for the improvements that came after. She led them to a vast archive filled with records of New Terra's history. The walls were lined with data crystals and old-fashioned books, creating a library that preserved every detail of their struggle for survival. The early years were the worst, Davis explained. Our grandparents landed with 50,000 colonists. Within 10 years, only 5,000 were still alive. The Zephyrians attacked constantly, and we had no effective weapons to fight back. She pulled up historical records showing the gradual decline and eventual recovery of the human population. The turning point was the Battle of Iron Ridge, 90 years ago. A force of 300 New Terra soldiers destroyed an entire Zephyrian fleet. How is that possible? Harrison asked. Davis smiled grimly. By then, we had learned to think like them. We understood their tactics, their technology, and their weaknesses. But most importantly, we had learned to use their own weapons against them. She showed them footage from the battle, recorded by the soldiers who fought there. The humans moved like ghosts through crystalline corridors, using captured alien weapons to destroy ships from the inside. They fought with the cold efficiency of machines, but also with the creativity and adaptability that only humans possessed. After Iron Ridge, everything changed, Davis continued. We stopped being victims and became hunters. The Zephyrians learned to fear us, and that fear gave us the time we needed to become even stronger. Clark took them back to his workshop and showed them the weapons that had made Iron Ridge possible. They were built from alien technology but designed according to human tactical thinking. Energy weapons that could be fired from multiple angles, armor that adapted to different threats, and communication systems that allowed perfect coordination between soldiers. The key insight was that Zephyrian technology is designed for their way of thinking, Clark explained. They're logical and predictable. But human thinking is chaotic and creative. When we started building weapons that could be used in unpredictable ways, they couldn't adapt fast enough. Dr. White showed them the medical facilities where wounded soldiers were treated with a combination of human medicine and alien healing technology. We've learned to repair injuries that would be fatal to normal humans. Lost limbs can be regrown, damaged organs can be replaced, and traumatic brain injuries can be healed completely. What about the psychological trauma of constant warfare? Martinez asked. We've adapted to that too, White replied. Our people are more resilient to stress and violence. They recover from traumatic experiences faster than baseline humans. It's a necessary adaptation for a warrior society. Wright studied the weapon designs that Clark had shown them. These modifications you've made to your people, they're not just for survival anymore, are they? They're for conquest. The New Terra citizens exchanged glances. Clark was the first to answer. Colonel, when you're fighting for survival for 3 centuries, you learn that the best defense is a strong offense. We don't just want to survive anymore. We want to win. Davis pulled up a star map showing the local region of space. The Zephyrians control 17 star systems in this sector. Each one contains resources that could support human colonies. Each one is a potential home for our expanding population. You're planning to take their territory, Harrison realized. We're planning to take everything, Blake said, entering the archive room. Admiral, your arrival changes our timeline, but not our goals. Humanity doesn't belong in one small corner of the galaxy. We belong everywhere. White gestured to the genetic modification data. Every improvement we've made to ourselves has been tested and proven in combat. We're stronger, faster, smarter, and more adaptable than any human in Federation space. We're the next step in human evolution. Clark showed them weapons that were still under development. These new designs incorporate everything we've learned about Zephyrian technology. They're not just defensive weapons. They're designed for aggressive warfare against technologically superior opponents. Davis closed the historical records. For 300 years, we've been the last humans in this part of space. We've been alone, outnumbered, and outgunned. But we survived, and we thrived. Now it's time to expand. As they returned to the surface, Harrison realized that his mission had become much more complicated than anyone in the Federation could have imagined. He had found a lost human colony, but they were no longer content to simply survive. They had become something new, something designed for war and conquest. The question was, what would the galaxy look like when these new humans decided to expand beyond their single world? Admiral Harrison sat in his quarters aboard the Horizon, staring at the report he was supposed to send back to Earth. 3 days had passed since the Zephyrian attack, and every new piece of information about New Terra made his decision more difficult. How do you explain to the peaceful Federation that you found a branch of humanity that has evolved into something completely different? Dr. Martinez knocked on his door and entered without waiting for permission. She looked exhausted, her usual calm demeanor replaced by obvious stress. Admiral, we need to talk. What I've learned about these people, it changes everything we thought we knew about human nature. Sit down, Doctor. I've been struggling with the same questions. Martinez pulled up her data on a portable screen. Their genetic modifications are more extensive than I initially thought. They haven't just enhanced physical capabilities. They've altered fundamental aspects of human psychology. Aggression levels, pack loyalty, willingness to sacrifice individuals for group survival, all of these have been intentionally modified. Harrison rubbed his temples. The Federation banned this kind of research for good reasons. The bio-wars nearly destroyed Earth. But these people didn't have a choice, Martinez said. They modified themselves or died. And the results are undeniable, they've survived and thrived in conditions that would have destroyed any normal human colony. Colonel Wright entered the room, carrying his own stack of reports. Admiral, I've been analyzing their military capabilities. These people could conquer half the Federation before we could mount an effective defense. Their weapons technology is at least 50 years ahead of ours, and their soldiers are enhanced beyond anything we've ever seen. Are you recommending we treat them as a threat? Harrison asked. Wright hesitated. I'm recommending we be very careful about what we do next. They've been fighting a war for 3 centuries. War is the only life they know. What happens when they decide they don't need to limit themselves to defense anymore? Their conversation was interrupted by a communication from New Terra. Diplomat Charles Brown's face appeared on the screen, his expression serious. Brown was the Federation's chief diplomatic officer, a man who had spent his career negotiating peaceful solutions to impossible problems. Admiral, I've been meeting with Captain Blake and his council. I need to warn you about something. These people are planning to capture a Zephyrian ship. When? Harrison asked. Tomorrow. They've been tracking a damaged enemy vessel that's trying to reach one of their bases for repairs. Blake wants to take it intact so they can study the latest Zephyrian technology. Wright leaned forward. That sounds like a reasonable tactical decision. It's not just tactical, Brown replied. They want to interrogate the crew. The Zephyrians they capture will be subjected to neural extraction procedures that would kill any organic being. They're planning to literally tear the information from their minds. Martinez looked horrified. That's torture. It violates every principle of the Federation Charter. I told them that, Brown said. Blake's response was that the Federation Charter was written by people who never had to fight for their existence against enemies who see them as a disease to be eliminated. Harrison felt the weight of command settling on his shoulders. What did you tell them? I told them the Federation couldn't support actions that violate our ethical principles. Blake said that was fine, they weren't asking for our support. They were simply informing us as a courtesy. After ending the communication, the three officers sat in silence. Finally, Wright spoke. Admiral, we have to face reality here. These people are not Federation citizens. They've been isolated for 3 centuries. They don't consider themselves bound by our laws or our ethics. But they're still human, Martinez protested. We can't just stand by and watch them commit atrocities. Can we stop them? Wright asked. They have superior technology and home field advantage. If we tried to interfere with their military operations, they could destroy us without breaking stride. Harrison stood and looked out the window at New Terra below. The planet looked peaceful from orbit, but he now knew that appearance was deceptive. Every city was a fortress, every citizen was a soldier, and every day was another step in a war that had lasted longer than most civilizations. There's something else, he said. I've been in communication with Earth. The Federation Council is very interested in New Terra technology. They want to establish a formal alliance. An alliance? Martinez asked. With people who torture prisoners and genetically modify their children for warfare? An alliance with people who have successfully fought off a superior alien force for 3 centuries, Wright corrected. The Federation has been looking for ways to improve our own defensive capabilities. These people have solutions we never could have imagined. Their debate was interrupted by an emergency alert. War Chief Marcus Stone appeared on the communication screen, his scarred face grim with urgency. Admiral, we have a situation. A large Zephyrian force is approaching the system. This isn't a raid, it's an invasion fleet. How large? Wright asked. 50 capital ships, maybe 200 smaller craft. They're bringing enough firepower to crack this planet like an egg. Stone's expression didn't change as he delivered this news. We can hold them off for a while, but we'll need your help. Harrison felt his heart skip a beat. What kind of help? Your ship has Federation transponder codes. The Zephyrians might hesitate to attack if they think Earth is backing us. We need time to implement our defensive strategy. What defensive strategy? Martinez asked. Stone smiled grimly. We're going to capture their command ship and turn their own fleet against them. But we need them to get close enough first. After Stone signed off, the 3 Federation officers stared at each other. The situation had just become much more complicated. They were about to be caught in the middle of a battle between humans who had evolved into something alien and aliens who wanted to eliminate all organic life. Admiral, Wright said quietly, we have to make a choice. We can try to stay neutral and probably get destroyed by both sides. We can support the Zephyrians, which would make us traitors to our own species. Or we can support New Terra, which means supporting methods that violate everything the Federation stands for. Martinez was studying her data again. There's a 4th option. We could try to mediate between them. The Zephyrians are clearly intelligent. Maybe we can negotiate a peaceful solution. Doctor, Harrison said gently, from everything we've learned, the Zephyrians don't negotiate with organic life. They see us as a cosmic mistake that needs to be corrected. Brown's voice came over the communication system again. Admiral, I've been speaking with some of the New Terra citizens about their philosophy. They don't see this as a war between different species. They see it as evolution in action. The strong survive, the weak perish, and the galaxy belongs to whoever can take it and hold it. That's exactly what I'm afraid of, Martinez said. What happens when they decide the Federation is weak? What happens when they turn their enhanced humans and captured alien technology toward Earth? Wright pulled up tactical data on his screen. We may not have a choice anymore. That Zephyrian fleet will be here in 6 hours. We need to decide whose side we're on before the shooting starts. Harrison looked at his officers, then at the planet below. Somewhere down there, enhanced humans were preparing for a battle that would determine the future of their civilization. Children who had been genetically modified for warfare were saying goodbye to parents who might not survive the day. Scientists were putting finishing touches on weapons built from the technology of their enemies. Captain Morrison, he said to his ship's captain over the intercom, prepare the horizon for combat operations. All hands to battle stations. Admiral? Martinez asked. What are you doing? I'm making a choice, Harrison replied. These people may not be the humans who left Earth 3 centuries ago. They may have changed in ways that make us uncomfortable. But they're still human, and they're fighting for survival against enemies who want to exterminate our entire species. Wright nodded approvingly. The Federation Council won't like it. The Federation Council isn't here, Harrison said. We are. And right now, that makes us the ones who have to decide what humanity becomes in this part of the galaxy. He opened a communication channel to New Terra. War Chief Stone, this is Admiral Harrison. The Horizon is ready to support your defensive operations. What do you need us to do? The Zephyrian invasion fleet emerged from hyperspace like a swarm of crystalline death. Admiral Harrison watched from the Horizon's bridge as 50 massive ships took position around New Terra, their hulls glowing with the cold light of advanced technology. Each enemy vessel was larger than anything in the Federation Navy, and their weapons could reduce planets to molten slag. War Chief Marcus Stone's voice crackled over the communication system. Admiral, we're implementing Plan 7. Your ship needs to position itself between their command vessel and the planet. Make them think Earth is officially backing us. What's Plan 7? Colonel Wright asked. You don't want to know, Stone replied. Just trust us and follow our lead. Lieutenant Karen Bell will coordinate with your tactical officer. Lieutenant Bell appeared on a secondary screen. She was a young woman, probably no older than 25, but her eyes held the hardness of someone who had been fighting for her entire life. Admiral Harrison, we're going to capture their command ship and use it to destroy the rest of their fleet. Dr. Martinez stared at the tactical display showing the size of the enemy force. That's impossible. There are 50 ships out there. Bell smiled with the confidence of someone who had done impossible things before. Ma'am, you're thinking like a Federation officer. You're thinking about fair fights and acceptable losses. We're thinking like humans who refuse to lose. The battle began when the Zephyrians opened fire on the planet's surface. Their energy beams carved massive craters in the ground, destroying entire city blocks in seconds. But the cities were empty. The New Terra citizens had evacuated to underground shelters that could withstand direct orbital bombardment. Phase 1 complete, Stone announced. They're committed to surface bombardment. Jake Murphy, launch your squadrons. Pilot Jake Murphy led a formation of 50 New Terra fighters up from concealed bases. But these weren't the same fighters that had defended against the earlier raid. These were new designs, built specifically for this battle using captured Zephyrian technology. My God, Wright whispered, watching the fighters on his scanner. Those energy signatures are off the charts. Each one of those fighters has the firepower of a Federation cruiser. The Zephyrian fleet immediately responded to the fighter attack, but something was wrong. Their movements were sluggish, their targeting systems seemed confused, and their return fire was less accurate than it should have been. Communications Officer Rachel King was monitoring enemy transmissions from her station on the horizon. Admiral, I'm picking up disruption in their command and control systems. It's like something is interfering with their coordination. Phase 2, Stone announced. Tony Rodriguez, activate the network. Tech specialist Tony Rodriguez had been working in the deep caves beneath New Terra for the past 3 days, setting up equipment that no one from the Federation understood. Now his voice came over the communication system with quiet satisfaction. Network active. We're inside their command systems. Harrison realized what was happening. You've hacked their fleet. More than that, Bell explained. We've been capturing their ships for decades, studying their technology and learning how their systems work. 3 days ago, we used their own communication protocols to plant infiltration programs in their network. The Zephyrian command ship, a massive vessel the size of a small moon, suddenly stopped firing on the planet. Its weapons turned instead toward the other ships in the fleet, and beams of crystalline energy began destroying the vessels it was supposed to be commanding. Phase 3, Stone said. All units, execute capture protocol. The new Terra fighters didn't just attack the enemy ships, they landed on them. Specially trained assault teams cut through crystalline hulls and fought their way to the command centers. These soldiers moved with inhuman speed and precision, using weapons specifically designed to kill Zephyrians in close combat. Wright watched the boarding actions on his tactical display. They're taking the ships intact. How are they possibly fighting Zephyrians in hand-to-hand combat? Bell pulled up video feeds from inside the captured ships. The new Terra soldiers were indeed fighting alien creatures that looked like living crystal formations with multiple limbs and energy weapons built into their bodies. But the humans were winning. Enhanced reflexes, reinforced bone structure, and weapons that disrupt crystalline matrix formations, Bell explained calmly. Plus 3 centuries of practice. Dr. Martinez was studying the biological readings from the boarding teams. Their heart rates are barely elevated. They're fighting advanced aliens in close combat, and they're not even stressed. This is what we've become, Bell said simply. This is what humans look like when they're designed for war. The battle in space continued for 4 hours, but the outcome was never in doubt. Once the new Terra forces had control of the enemy command ship, they used it to systematically capture or destroy the rest of the Zephyrian fleet. The aliens fought with the cold efficiency of machines, but they couldn't adapt to tactics they had never encountered before. Jake Murphy's voice came over the communication system as his fighters escorted captured enemy vessels back to New Terra. Admiral, you might want to see this. We've got prisoners. The Horizon's crew gathered in the main conference room to watch the interrogation feeds. The Zephyrian prisoners were unlike anything they had imagined. Each creature was about 8 feet tall, with a body made of living crystal that could change shape at will. They had no faces as humans understood them, but their thoughts were visible as patterns of light moving through their crystalline structures. Captain Blake conducted the interrogation personally, using methods that made the Federation officers extremely uncomfortable. He connected alien neural interfaces directly to the prisoners' consciousness, literally extracting information from their minds. This is torture, Martinez protested. This is war, Blake replied without emotion. These creatures have been trying to exterminate humanity for 3 centuries. Every piece of information we extract from their minds saves human lives. The interrogation revealed things that changed everything the Federation thought they knew about the galaxy. The Zephyrians were not just another alien species, they were the remnants of a vast empire that had once controlled most of the galaxy. They had been systematically eliminating organic life for thousands of years, viewing it as a contamination that interfered with their perfect crystalline order. Earth, one of the prisoners revealed, is already marked for elimination. The main Zephyrian fleet is preparing to attack your home system. Harrison felt ice in his veins. When? Soon, Blake translated from the aliens' thoughts. They were waiting to finish us off first, but now that we've proven we can capture their ships, they're accelerating their timeline. Wright was studying the tactical information extracted from the prisoners. Admiral, according to this data, the Zephyrians have over 1,000 ships in their main fleet. Earth's defenses couldn't stop an attack like that. But we can, Bell said quietly. We now have 17 captured Zephyrian ships, each one more powerful than anything in the Federation Navy. We have soldiers who can board and capture enemy vessels. And we have 3 centuries of experience fighting these creatures. Martinez realized what they were suggesting. You want to take the war to them. We want to end the war, Blake corrected. The Zephyrians will never stop trying to eliminate organic life. The only way to achieve peace is to eliminate them first. Stone entered the conference room, still wearing battle armor stained with alien fluids. Admiral, we've captured enough enemy technology to build a fleet that could challenge the Zephyrian Empire. But we'll need Federation resources and manpower to do it quickly enough to save Earth. Harrison looked around the room at his officers and the new Terra leaders. 6 hours ago, he had been struggling with the ethics of supporting a warrior society that violated Federation principles. Now he was faced with a choice between those principles and the survival of humanity itself. "What exactly are you proposing?" he asked. Blake smiled grimly. "An alliance. Federation resources and shipbuilding capacity, combined with new Terra technology and military expertise. Together, we can build a fleet that will end the Zephyrian threat forever." "And after that?" Wright asked. "What happens when there are no more enemies to fight?" Bell and Stone exchanged glances. "Then we find new worlds for humanity to inhabit," Bell said. "The galaxy is a big place, and humans deserve more than one small corner of it." Harrison realized that he was witnessing the birth of something entirely new. Not just an alliance between Earth and New Terra, but the emergence of a new kind of humanity, one designed for expansion and conquest rather than peaceful exploration. The question was, would this new humanity save the Federation, or would it eventually replace it entirely? 3 months after the Great Battle, the Kepler 442 system had become the center of humanity's greatest military expansion in history. Captain Ryan Blake stood on the bridge of his new flagship, the Terran Conquest, and watched as the largest human fleet ever assembled prepared for its first major offensive operation. The ship itself was a marvel of hybrid technology. Built using Federation manufacturing capabilities and new Terra engineering expertise, it combined the best of both human civilizations. The hull was constructed from captured Zephyrian crystal matrices, making it nearly indestructible. The weapons systems were based on resonance technology that could shatter enemy ships with surgical precision. Commander Alex Turner walked up beside Blake, carrying a data pad with the latest intelligence reports. "Captain, our scout ships have confirmed the target. The Zephyrian mining world of Kepler 186c has minimal defenses and massive resource extraction facilities." Blake studied the tactical display showing their destination. "How many enemy ships?" 12 patrol vessels and a few automated defense platforms. "Nothing we can't handle with a single battle group." The plan was simple and brutal. New Terra forces would capture the Zephyrian mining world, strip it of its resources, and use those materials to build more ships for the growing human fleet. It was the first step in a campaign that would eventually challenge the entire Zephyrian Empire. Dr. Kate Johnson had spent the past months analyzing captured alien technology and developing new weapons specifically designed for offensive operations. Her latest creations could punch through Zephyrian defenses like they were made of paper. "The new plasma torpedoes are ready for field testing," she reported to Blake. "Each one carries enough destructive power to crack a planet's crust. The Zephyrians built their mining facilities deep underground, but they won't be safe from these weapons." Blake nodded approvingly. "Good. We need to send a message that human expansion is no longer limited to defense." Admiral Harrison watched the preparations from the bridge of the horizon, which had been extensively upgraded with new Terra technology. His crew now included both Federation officers and new Terra specialists, creating a hybrid command structure that combined Earth's diplomatic experience with new Terra's military expertise. "Admiral," Colonel Wright said quietly, "are you comfortable with what we're about to do? This isn't a defensive action anymore. We're invading an alien world and taking their resources." Harrison had been struggling with that question for months. "Colonel, the intelligence we extracted from those prisoners was clear. The Zephyrians are planning to attack Earth within the year. We can either wait for them to come to us, or we can strike first while we have the advantage." Dr. Martinez was less convinced. "But this specific target isn't a military threat. It's a mining operation. We're essentially committing an act of piracy." "We're committing an act of survival," Blake said, overhearing the conversation. "Doctor, the Zephyrians don't recognize any difference between military and civilian targets. They see all organic life as equally deserving of elimination. Why should we show them mercy they would never show us?" The fleet departed New Terra with 47 ships, including 17 captured Zephyrian vessels that had been modified for human use. The crews were a mixture of Federation personnel and New Terra warriors, all trained in the new hybrid tactics that had proven so effective against alien technology. The journey to Kepler 186c took 2 weeks, during which the crews practiced assault procedures and studied the target. The Zephyrian mining world was a harsh planet with a toxic atmosphere, but it contained vast deposits of the crystalline materials that the aliens used for their technology. "Target in sight," announced Navigation Officer Danny Clark as they dropped out of hyperspace. "Zephyrian defenses are responding to our presence." The enemy patrol ships moved to intercept them, but the aliens had never faced anything like the human hybrid fleet. The new Terra fighters, now powered by captured Zephyrian energy cores, outmaneuvered the defenders easily. The resonance weapons developed by Dr. Johnson tore through crystalline hulls like they were made of glass. Blake commanded the battle from his flagship, coordinating the attack with the cold precision of someone who had been fighting wars his entire life. Squadron 7, secure the orbital platforms. Squadron 12, begin surface bombardment. I want those mining facilities intact for capture. The battle lasted less than 3 hours. The Zephyrian defenders fought with their usual mechanical efficiency, but they were overwhelmed by human tactics and superior firepower. When the last enemy ship was destroyed, the planet lay defenseless before the human fleet. "Beginning landing operations," reported General Mike Roberts, who was leading the ground assault. His troops had been specifically enhanced for operations in hostile environments, and they moved through the toxic atmosphere of the alien world without difficulty. The Zephyrian mining facilities were marvels of crystalline engineering, built into the planet's crust like living organisms. But they were no match for human soldiers equipped with weapons designed to disrupt alien technology. The defenders were eliminated systematically, and the facilities were captured intact. "Resistance eliminated," Roberts reported. "We're beginning extraction operations." Commander Turner set up mining equipment that could process Zephyrian materials for human use. Within days, the captured facilities were producing crystalline components for new human ships and weapons. The aliens had spent decades building this operation, and now it belonged to humanity. Dr. Johnson established research stations to study the captured technology in greater detail. "We found something interesting," she reported to Blake. "The Zephyrians aren't just mining crystals here. They're growing them. This entire facility is actually a vast organism that creates the materials they need for their technology." "Can we control it?" Blake asked. "We're learning how. Give us a few months, and we'll be able to produce Zephyrian technology faster than they can." The success at Kepler 186c was just the beginning. Over the following months, human forces captured 3 more Zephyrian worlds, each one adding to their growing collection of alien technology and resources. Each victory made the next one easier, as human engineers learned to use captured weapons and ships more effectively. But the most significant change was in the human forces themselves. Federation personnel who had initially been horrified by new Terra methods gradually adapted to the realities of interstellar warfare. They learned to use the enhanced weapons, to fight alongside genetically modified soldiers, and to accept casualties as the price of victory. Lieutenant Karen Bell, now promoted to Major, commanded a mixed unit of Federation and New Terra troops. "The Federation soldiers are learning fast," she reported to Blake. "They're adapting to our methods better than I expected. Give them another 6 months of combat experience, and they'll be as effective as our own people." Admiral Harrison found himself changing as well. The diplomatic protocols that had governed his entire career seemed increasingly irrelevant when dealing with enemies who viewed negotiation as weakness. He began to understand why the new Terra colonists had evolved as they had. "Admiral," Wright said during one of their strategy meetings, "I've been analyzing our casualty reports. We're losing fewer people in each engagement, but we're also becoming more aggressive. Our tactics are shifting from defensive to offensive, just like theirs did. Is that necessarily a bad thing?" Harrison asked. "The Zephyrians have controlled this region of space for thousands of years. Maybe it's time for that to change." Martinez was studying biological samples from the captured worlds. The genetic modifications that the new Terra people made to themselves are starting to look less extreme and more necessary. Operating in these alien environments requires capabilities that normal humans simply don't have. The captured Zephyrian prisoners provided intelligence about other worlds that could be targeted for human expansion. Each world contained resources that could support human colonies or facilities that could be converted for human use. The galaxy was vast, and there was room for human civilization to grow beyond anything previously imagined. Captain, Turner reported during their latest strategy session, we now have enough captured technology to begin building a new class of warship. These vessels would be larger and more powerful than anything the Zephyrians have ever encountered. Blake studied the designs for the proposed ships. They were enormous vessels that could carry entire armies across interstellar distances while bristling with weapons that could destroy planets. They represented the next step in human military evolution. Begin construction immediately, he ordered. We'll need them for the next phase of expansion. Dr. Johnson had been working on biological weapons specifically designed to target Zephyrian physiology. Their crystalline structure is vulnerable to certain viral programs that can corrupt their matrix formation. We could potentially disable entire fleets without firing a shot. Develop it, Blake said without hesitation. The faster we can end this war, the sooner we can focus on expansion into uncontested territory. As the months passed, the human presence in the region continued to grow. Captured worlds were converted into human colonies or military bases. Alien technology was adapted for human use on an industrial scale. The small defensive force that had started at New Terra was becoming an empire capable of challenging any power in the galaxy. We're not just fighting for survival anymore, Blake admitted to Harrison during one of their private conversations. We're fighting for dominance. The question is, are you ready for humanity to become the dominant species in this part of the galaxy? Harrison looked out at the growing fleet of human ships, many of them built from captured alien technology and crewed by enhanced human soldiers. The Federation he had served for his entire career was peaceful and diplomatic, dedicated to exploration and scientific discovery. But the humans who were conquering this region of space were something different. They were adapted for war, designed for expansion, and committed to ensuring that humanity would never again be threatened by hostile aliens. Yes, he said finally. I think I am ready for that. 6 months after the first conquest began, Emperor Ryan Blake stood in the command center of New Terra's capital city and looked out at an empire that spanned 17 star systems. The transformation had been rapid and complete. What had started as a small colony defending itself against alien raiders had become the foundation of humanity's greatest expansion into space. The Kepler 442 system was now the center of a growing network of human worlds, mining operations, and military bases. Ships moved constantly between the systems, carrying resources, personnel, and weapons to support the continuing expansion. The old colonial government had been replaced by an imperial administration designed to manage conquest and colonization on a massive scale. Admiral Jack Harrison, now serving as imperial liaison to the Federation, reviewed the latest reports from their territorial acquisitions. Emperor, the conversion of the Zephyrian worlds is proceeding ahead of schedule. We now have operational mining facilities in 12 systems, and the shipyards are producing new vessels at twice the projected rate. Blake nodded approvingly. The title of Emperor still felt strange to him, but it accurately reflected the reality of what they had built. This was no longer a simple colony or even a confederation of worlds. It was an empire designed for expansion and conquest. What's the status of our next targets? Blake asked. Commander Alex Turner pulled up a stellar map showing the surrounding region. Intelligence reports indicate 3 more Zephyrian worlds within striking distance. 2 are industrial centers, and 1 appears to be a major command hub for their remaining forces in this sector. Dr. Kate Johnson had been analyzing the captured alien technology with increasing excitement. Emperor, we've made a breakthrough in understanding Zephyrian command and control systems. We can now not only hack their networks, but we can also create false signals that will confuse their entire fleet coordination. Excellent. Begin implementation immediately. The hybrid human civilization that had emerged was unlike anything in galactic history. Federation technology and manufacturing capabilities had been combined with New Terra's military innovations and captured alien resources. The result was a society that could build fleets capable of challenging any known power while maintaining the scientific and cultural advancement that characterized human civilization. Dr. Lisa Martinez, now serving as Imperial Science Advisor, had documented the changes in the human population itself. The genetic modifications that were originally limited to New Terra citizens are now being adopted by Federation personnel. Voluntary enhancement programs are producing soldiers and workers who are stronger, faster, and more adaptable than baseline humans. The changes weren't limited to physical enhancement. The constant warfare and expansion had also affected human psychology and culture. The peaceful exploration ethos that had characterized the Federation was being replaced by a more aggressive approach to galactic expansion. We're witnessing the emergence of a new branch of humanity, Martinez continued. One specifically adapted for conquest and colonization in hostile environments. The question is whether this represents evolution or deviation from human nature. Blake disagreed with the premise. Doctor, this represents human nature responding to galactic reality. For 400 years, the Federation assumed that space was safe for peaceful exploration. We've learned that assumption was wrong. The galaxy belongs to species that are willing to fight for it. Engineer Danny Clark had been overseeing the conversion of captured alien facilities for human use. The Zephyrian infrastructure is actually quite adaptable once you understand how it works. Their mining operations can be reprogrammed to extract materials for human technology. Their manufacturing facilities can be converted to build human ships and weapons. The economic transformation was as dramatic as the military expansion. The Empire now controlled resources that could support human expansion for centuries. Rare crystalline materials that had once been available only through expensive trade agreements with alien species were now being produced in vast quantities by captured facilities. War Chief Marcus Stone, now serving as Imperial military commander, briefed Blake on the status of their armed forces. We currently have 237 operational warships, including 83 captured Zephyrian vessels that have been modified for human crews. Our ground forces include over 50,000 enhanced soldiers trained in alien combat techniques. What about recruitment from Federation worlds? Blake asked. Increasing rapidly. Word about our victories is spreading throughout Federation space. Military personnel are requesting transfers to our forces, and civilians are applying for colonization opportunities in our captured territories. Admiral Harrison had been monitoring communications with Earth and the other Federation worlds. The Federation Council is still debating how to respond to our expansion. Some members are calling for sanctions, but others are pushing for increased cooperation. The threat of Zephyrian attack on Earth has convinced many leaders that our methods are necessary. Blake pulled up intelligence reports from deep space monitoring stations. Speaking of Zephyrian threats, what's the status of their main fleet? General Mike Roberts, who had been leading reconnaissance missions into enemy territory, provided the latest assessment. Their main battle fleet is still intact, but it's been reduced from over 1,000 ships to about 700. More importantly, they've pulled back from their forward positions. They're consolidating their forces for what appears to be a major defensive operation. They're afraid of us, Blake realized. For the first time in their history, the Zephyrians are on the defensive. Dr. Johnson had been developing new weapons specifically designed for the coming confrontation with the main Zephyrian fleet. The resonance cascade weapons are ready for deployment. Each torpedo can trigger a chain reaction that will destroy multiple enemy ships simultaneously. We've also perfected the viral programs that can corrupt their command systems. The transformation of human society was most visible in the new generation of children being born in the Empire. They were raised from birth with genetic enhancements that made them stronger and more intelligent than any previous generation of humans. They were educated in schools that taught advanced tactics alongside traditional subjects. They grew up expecting to inherit a galaxy where humanity was the dominant species. Lieutenant Colonel Karen Bell, now commanding the elite Imperial Guard, reported on the training programs for these enhanced children. The new generation is adapting to our technology and tactics faster than we anticipated. They instinctively understand alien psychology and combat methods that took us decades to learn. What about their psychological profiles? Martinez asked. They're more aggressive and competitive than baseline humans, but they're also more loyal and disciplined. They see expansion and conquest as normal parts of human society. To them, the idea that humans should be limited to a few peaceful worlds is incomprehensible. Blake recognized that they were creating something that would last long beyond the current conflict with the Zephyrians. We're not just winning a war. We're establishing the foundation for human dominance in this region of the galaxy. Our children and grandchildren will inherit an empire that spans hundreds of star systems. The economic reports from tech specialist Tony Rodriguez showed the scope of their achievement. Our captured territories are now producing more advanced technology than the entire Federation. We're not just using alien resources, we're improving on alien designs. In some areas, our technology is now superior to anything the Zephyrians have. Communications Officer Rachel King had been monitoring alien transmissions throughout their region of space. The other species in this sector are starting to take notice of our expansion. Some are sending diplomatic signals indicating interest in alliance or trade agreements. Others appear to be preparing their own defenses. Let them prepare, Blake said. We're not interested in conquering every species in the galaxy. But we are interested in ensuring that no one ever again threatens human survival. Admiral Harrison pulled up a map showing the full extent of their territorial control. In 6 months, we've gone from defending a single world to controlling 17 star systems. At this rate of expansion, we'll control this entire sector of the galaxy within 5 years. Blake studied the map with satisfaction. The red markers indicating Zephyrian territory were steadily being replaced by blue markers showing human control. Each conquered world added to their military and economic strength, making the next conquest easier. The Federation is requesting a formal meeting to discuss our relationship going forward, Harrison reported. They want to negotiate a treaty that will establish our status within the Federation structure. What are our terms? Blake asked. Complete autonomy in military matters, exclusive rights to all captured alien territory, and Federation support for our continued expansion operations. Blake smiled. And if they refuse? Then we continue expansion with or without Federation approval. We have the ships, the technology, and the personnel to operate independently. Dr. Martinez had been studying the long-term implications of their expansion. We need to consider what happens when we've eliminated the Zephyrian threat entirely. We'll have a military designed for conquest but no more enemies to fight. Doctor, Blake replied, the galaxy is a very large place. There are thousands of star systems that could support human colonies. There are alien species that control resources we could use. There are worlds that could become new homes for human civilization. You're talking about unlimited expansion. I'm talking about human destiny. For 400 years, humanity has been content to exist in a small corner of the galaxy. We've accepted that other species controlled most of space, most resources, and most opportunities for expansion. That era is over. Blake walked to the massive window that overlooked New Terra's capital city. Below him, construction crews were building monuments to commemorate their victories. Children played in parks that had been built from materials mined on alien worlds. Ships launched from spaceports carrying enhanced humans to new worlds that would become part of the growing empire. We've proven that humans can adapt to any environment, overcome any obstacle, and defeat any enemy. We've shown that human creativity and determination can triumph over technological superiority. Now it's time to show the galaxy what humans can accomplish when they stop limiting themselves to peaceful coexistence. Admiral Harrison joined him at the window. The Federation representatives are waiting for your decision on the treaty negotiations. Blake turned back to his advisors and commanders. These people had helped him transform a small colony into an interstellar empire. They had adapted Federation technology and alien resources to create something entirely new. They had proven that humanity's potential was limited only by their willingness to reach for it. Send this message to the Federation Council, he said. The Empire of New Terra recognizes Federation authority within Federation space. We expect Federation recognition of Imperial authority within Imperial space. We are prepared to defend human interests throughout the galaxy, with or without Federation support. He paused, looking once more at the map showing their territorial expansion. And informed them that this is just